CBDCs. Are we being played? Are we heading into another trap? Let's figure this out.
Major moves. We going all in. Like we got nothing to lose. We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves.
Warning, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't blame me or any other random person that gives you some money tips for any of your financial decisions. I provide information based on research that may guide you to taking a deeper look at a particular company. However, in no way am I suggesting to invest or not invest in that company. Your decisions are that of your own. I present information that is readily available on the internet, and I piece together the story to create and provide a more holistic concept to create a bigger picture. This information is for educational purposes only. Ultimately, I'm a guy in a Spider-Man mask, and you should not take financial advice or information from me.
Welcome back to my channel, everybody. I'm Mr. Man, and I got a good one for you today. Today, let's dive into CBDCs. There is a lot of information circulating about these things, a lot of potentially positive information and a lot of negative information. Are these things part of the the all-seeing Illuminati, or is there a different agenda for these things? I figured today we'll take a look at these, and maybe your mind might be changed. Maybe you may allow the concept and construct to open your mind and allow the construct of a CBDC to enter. Or who knows, maybe it just might solidify what your thought of them is already. I'm approaching this from a non-biased basis. I'm reading what is available to me already on the internet here. So let's not waste much time, because this one will be a rather heavy one. I can't put a time frame to this. We will explore and figure this out together. Anyways, CBDCs, let's go down. The 13th principle for central bank digital currencies released this week. This was a while ago. What date was that? October 18th, 2021. By the G7 finance officials showed that even as none of those countries have issued their own CBDC, caution seems to reign. The G7 exists as an intergovernmental group comprised of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the UK, and the US. And as the report, Public Policy Principles for Central Bank Digital Currencies, shows, there can be a range of benefits to be realized, but only if the legal and financial stability ramifications are carefully examined. Interesting. This came out from Watcher Guru, today. CBDCs and stablecoins are the natural evolution of money and payments, says Bank of America. From a non-biased opinion here, I have to agree with that, though. I do. Right now, you can use your phone and you can send dollars on a screen or send numbers on a screen to somebody else. And then those numbers can translate in terms of pulling out money from a bank itself. But what the CBDC looks to do is create that intermediary. That way the numbers on your screen actually contain value now. And that's where people begin to get scared and hear all these different horror stories of what a CBDC is. And we're going to get locked out, and they're going to steal our money, and we're going to have to spend this and spend that. And dear Jesus, sweet Jesus, save me now. Anyways, pardon me, got all hyped up there. CBDCs and stablecoins have harnessed the attention of global nations. This is evidence from different countries adopting CBDCs and conducting pilot tests to incorporate CBDCs in day-to-day life. It's common regardless of what you or I want. Some of the very recent developments include Japan's plan to launch experimental CBDC in 2023, and India starts its retail CBDC pilot. France and Luxembourg are also using experimental CBDCs, along with Brazil's central bank planning to launch in 2024. The EU's prioritizing, and most recently, the Central Bank of Turkey is also dropping their CBDC tests. All right. So, that being said, jumping back to this article here, the CBDC, we were talking about the G7 and we were talking about their policy. Here we go. Here's the G7 policy here. G7 finance ministers and central bank governors statement on central bank digital currencies, October 13th, 2021. Innovation in digital money and payments has the potential to bring significant benefits, but also raises considerable public policy and regulatory issues. Strong international coordination and cooperation on these issues help to ensure the public and private sector innovation will deliver domestic and cross-border benefits while being safe for users and wider financial system. Now, let's break that word down there, users, because it's not as simple when you hear users and you're talking about us. We're not just the only users. There are MCBDCs, there's what's known as the MCBDC, the multi-CBDC. There are wholesale CBDCs known as WCBDC, which then eventually reaches the other central bank and converts that into the RCBDC, which is the retail CBDC. But then you have cross-border, and in that you have cross-border regulations, which has to adhere to the VASP program and policy as well. So it's not as simple as you guys think when you hear CBDCs are coming for us. There are multiple types of CBDC in terms of conversion and how it is interoperable between the central banks. The wholesale CBDC operates solely in the back on top of that stable coin, which is pegged to a digital asset. Then you have once that's sent from the wholesale CBDC to the retail CBDC at that point now, it has the intrinsic value of that pegged CBDC on that stable coin. All right. We have been exploring in our jurisdiction how digital innovation could maintain access to and enhance the benefit of central bank money in the form of a CBDC. If issued, a CBDC would complement cash. It would complement cash and could act as liquid, safe settlement asset, and as an anchor for the payment system. Under the UK presidency, is that where we want to read? No. Okay. To explore CBDC design, operation, and the implication for the monetary and financial stability, no G7 authority has yet taken the sovereign decision to issue a CBDC, and careful consideration of the potential policy implications will continue. Down here now, this is where it gets interesting. We affirm that any CBDC should be grounded in our long-standing public commitments to transparency, the rule of law, and sound economic governance. So that is really intriguing to me, because they are very clear with their words there. The rule of law and sound economic governance. Now, in terms of economics, let's go to the States. Canada's model is a little different, so let's jump over to the States, where most people know. You have the Treasury, which is the one who curates the money itself, and then you have the Reserve. And the Reserve is the one who manages the stability of the economy itself. And as you see right now, they are printing money galore. They're just ripping this out like you wouldn't believe. And that is literally just to tap the globe, not dry, but to pull as much money from the future into the now to invest into the new future. So they're stopping the future that's been created or being created, pulling it back so they can divest it over there now into this new blockchain technology. Blockchain is the foundational layer, and then you have everything else built on top of that. And that's where they're going. It's more secure. I gotta drop digital IDs on you guys one time also. They do a good job of creating fear. And again, coming from a non-biased place. So I'm not stating you need to be fearful. I'm not stating you don't need to be fearful. I'm just bringing the facts to you that they have written here. Anyways, any CBDC must support and do no harm to the ability of central banks to fulfill their mandate. So again, interesting wording, to fulfill their mandate for monetary and financial stability. So the money itself puts the banks above all, which makes sense because they're the ones who are curating it. But then eventually that'll bring us to another situation that we are living through today. And today being January 17th, 2023, where we are now living with high inflation and the relative value of the U.S. reserve currency falling relative to the other currencies as well, being the Japanese, UK, Euro, Chinese dollar. We emphasize the importance of rigorous standards of privacy, accountability for the protection of user data, again, depending on who the user is, because there's different segues it's going to go as well, and the transparency on how information will be secured and used to command and trust the confidence by users. Any CBDC ecosystem must be secure and resilient to cyber, fraud, and other operational risks, must address illicit finance concerns, and be energy efficient. There's always the finance concern and AML and blah, 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 blah. Anyways, jumping over to our 3 here. 3 design choices for central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. All right. Number 1 consideration, type of CBDC. Numero 2, 3 design choices. The 3 design choices here. Design consideration 1, who issues the CBDC? Down here, where was it? There we go. In that. So I was looking for. Right there. There it is. Who issues? Right down here. The hybrid model also introduces an important innovation by allowing the central bank to move CBDC holdings of end users if a bank is in distress. So we will talk more to that in a bit here. How is the CBDC distributed? And design considerations. In what form is the CBDC held? So, jumping over to the BIS here. I will show you guys here. Here we go, the BIS. This is the Central Bank Currencies Foundational Principles and Core Features. This came out, I have no idea when. But in this study was the Bank of Canada, the ECB, Bank of Japan, who's that? Switzerland's Sveriges Riksbank, Swiss National. Yeah, anyways, you see the names here. They're all right here on the side. Report number 1. And what we're doing is jumping right down to here, section 3, where it says, let me just scratch my eye. 3 foundational properties or principles. Again, 3 foundational principles. Central banks have a common mandate for monetary and financial stability in their jurisdictions and have been providing trusted money to the public for hundreds of years as part of their public policy objectives. Their policy choices reflect their jurisdiction's specific requirements and circumstances at a point in time. A point in time, which means it can potentially change again. Or, in the beginning to ramp it up, it could change the velocity of money because it is a CBDC. It is a digital currency. However, for example, a CBDC should maintain and reinforce the singleness or uniformity of a currency. So what you hold in your hand here, the digital dollar on here, should act the same. And notice I use the word should, not must, not will. When it comes to documents like these, when you have regulators talking, those words mean something. So when you see, where was it? Where would it go? Anyways, it's in there. When you see should or must, should mean it's loosey-goosey. Must means you must do it or else you are not adhering to this policy or this framework or this whatever the heck you want to call it. Allowing the public to use different forms of money interchangeably. Here we go. coexistence. Central banks must have a mandate for stability and proceed cautiously in new territory. So, that being said, with all the fear being put out there about CBDCs, they need to figure out a way to get people on CBDCs still. I'm sure there's going to be some motivational factor. It might be another something or another or something else. It could be climate change. It could be, who knows? Who knows? What I do know, it'll be a 9/11 type of situation. If you understand that term, then you're following me. We're vibing together, and I respect you. Daps, virtual daps for all y'all out there. If you're following me and you're piecing with me here. New CBDC existing cash, reserve, and settlement accounts should complement one another and coexist with robust private money, which is what you got in your wallet that's private to you. For example, commercial bank accounts to support public policy objectives. Central banks should continue providing and supporting cash as long as there is sufficient public demand for it. So, sufficient public demand is an interesting phrase to use as well, because again, should something happen, I'm not saying anything will happen, but who knows, something may happen and public demand for cash decides to dwindle a bit, which is the case. We've been shepherded or cattled, if you will, into where we're walking to now. But thankfully, if you're watching me, you know what we're moving into already. We know what stable coins are. I posted that in my videos. We know what global stable coins are. I posted that as well too. I don't know how to make the links on YouTube here to do that. I'll eventually figure that out. I'm just a realist. I'm giving you guys my mind here. I'm being straight with you. That being said, let's move on here. Two-tiered CBDC, and this is how most banks operate on a two-tiered system. This is Project Orem. I brought this to you guys before on a couple occasions. All right. Where are we? The HKMA, the Project Orem, the Latin word for gold, reflecting our starting premise that digital currency issued under the auspice of a central bank must be as robust and trustworthy as gold, meaning that CBDC will have the backing of a stablecoin pegged to gold. Pegged to gold. That's in the central bank. That's in the BIS documents. All right. That's another one of my videos as well. It's called, Is XRP Backed by Gold? Check it out. So the hybrid model I was talking to you guys about, here we go. This is the direct model here. I'll zoom that in for y'all. That's the direct model from the central bank to you and me, or the central bank to said business. And that model requires a huge shakeup for any first world bank. That would be the US, that'd be UK, EU, Canada, Japan. Right? We don't have this. We don't have that model. We don't have to get our money directly from the central bank. We don't get our money directly from the Bank of Canada. That's not how it works. We have intermediaries. By intermediaries, I mean we have settling and clearing. Let me show you guys what that is. All right. Here's the U.S. settling and clearing. Here's the clearance agencies for the U.S. So the money goes from the central bank to one of these individuals here. Anyways, might go to one of these individuals here. The DTCC. The DTCC is partnered with Ripple, just so you're aware, as well as Zinfin, XDC, and XRP. They have come out stating this last year in near the end of the summer, midsummer. My apologies, midsummer. All right. Then you have other companies here for clearing and settlement. This is all the U.S. So there is no direct model from the central bank to the end user itself. That model does not exist for the U.S. Jumping back to Canada now. Where is Canada? I know I have it here. Here we go. Here's Canada's clearing and settlement system. So our system is similar to that of the U.S. Here's Canada's CDS, Clearing and Settlement Depository. We have CLS Banks, LHC. We have Derivatives Clearinghouse. We have Swap Clearing. There's a bunch of different clearing operators and agents there. So it's not going to be direct from the central bank to you and I. Not a thing. That would require such a huge amount of policy change, which if you ever worked in a business and for a massive company, you're not doing that. You are not changing that shit up. And if you don't believe me, let's hear it directly from Knowles Benedict. Knowles Benedict is on the Hong Kong side, so the Hong Kong Monetary Authority with the BIS Innovation Hub there, and she can present it well to you guys. Take a listen.
Maybe to quickly go through this because it's important. People started with this concept of a CBDC that is directly issued by the central bank to you, Jamie, as a retail person.
That's the direct model that we were just talking about.
The problem with that is that the central bank would need to do your KYC, right?
KYC is know your customer. Again, they have to change up their whole entire framework and policies just to roll something like this out. They're not doing that.
Which central banks don't traditionally do. They delegate that task to the banking sector and to the BSPs, the SPFs in Hong Kong. They know you, not the central bank. So it's not the task they do. It's not the task they may want to do for that reason. And it's not the task you may want them to do because you may want your privacy to be kept in the private sector, the banking sector and the PSPs, as opposed to at the central bank level. So the direct CBDC is something that was put out there as a concept 2 years ago, but very few jurisdictions are now actually doing that model or choosing that model. So the more preferred model they're going for is a hybrid CBDC or an intermediated.
A hybrid or an intermediate. She was talking about there's very few jurisdictions doing the direct model. Let's jump into one jurisdiction that ran this as a test and see how they did it and how they liked it there. Okay, here we are in China. So it's a short 6-minute video.
你们会用数字人民币不？
Huang Dan just paid with a new type of money at this pharmacy.
可以了
That's because China's paper cash is going digital.
就是把你的钱包放到了手机里面。
The digital yuan is meant to be faster than using credit or debit cards on digital wallets like Apple Pay. Plus, there are other incentives, like 0 transaction fees for merchants, and one day it'll even work offline. But one
I'll keep that to myself. You know what? I'll be transparent. So, an offline, what I know, the only cryptocurrency that facilitates offline movements or proof of payment is what's known as XPOP, which is proof of payment. X proof of payment, and this is a protocol built on the XRPL. And once it finally clears and settles back on chain, that settles in drops.
One major difference is that the digital yuan is 100% trackable by China's central bank.
So that's the direct model we were just talking about there, from the central bank to the user here.
And when it's launched nationwide, it could impact not only citizens, but also foreign companies operating in the country.
The central bank will know who's paying, how much they're paying, when they're paying, where they're paying, and then to analyze the patterns of payment.
China's central bank has also said it plans to gradually replace all cash and coins with the digital yuan. The country would be the first major economy to introduce a digital currency in the real world. And while many users say the digital yuan is easy to use, China's money revolution could usher in privacy concerns.
Perfect. So let's jump back from that one now. That's the direct model. And as you heard Benedict Knowles talking there, most countries or jurisdictions like the hybrid or the intermediated or intermediary, she says there, which would mean there are settlers in the middle here. I'm pointing at my screen, assuming you guys can see it, but you can't because the camera doesn't show that. Anyways, watch the arrow here. Here's the intermediaries here. Here are the clearing agents and settlement agents in between here. And then here are you and I and the businesses at the end here. So These guys here will be doing your KYC, know your customer, and AML, anti-money laundering. And they are the ones currently set up in the US and Canada and most big jurisdictions that already do that. They already have the policies, procedures, regulations for that. In Canada, our intermediary who was delegated by the Bank of Canada is Payments Canada. Payments Canada, we are responsible for Canada's payments clearing and settlement infrastructure, including associated systems, bylaw, rules, and standards. So that is Payments Canada, who's the one who creates our governing act and then hands it off to the government, and the government finally says yay or nay. So that being said, we keep talking with the two-tiered model, which is the hybrid or intermediated model. It's the same thing, just the name is interchangeable. A recent study by the Committee on Payments, this is this is the Bank of Canada, all right? Credit on a tiered payment system, okay? Just so you guys can see where I'm getting my information from here. Not blowing smoke out of my butthole. Smoke out of a butthole, huh? I don't know what that is. Nope. Yep, that's where I was. Okay. A recent study by the CPSS on the role of the central bank's money measures the degree of tiering in selected payment system in a sample of developed countries. The study uses two measures for the degree of tiering: the proportion of financial institutions in the country that participate in DCs. DC stands for... no idea. Direct clearing, sorry. Direct clearing. As in the system, and the value of the payments in the system accounted for by these direct clears. In tiered systems, so they were talking about the direct system first. In tiered system, where you have the central bank, then you have the intermediary, and then you have us. The large banking institutions are typically the major CAs, which is the clearing agent in the system, while the smaller institutions participate as ICs, which is the indirect clearers. Mid-sized banks may participate directly in the first tier with the central banks, but not usually as a clearing agent, though. They don't have the rights to clear. All right? You still need a clearing agent for that. Okay, so here's my proof. Digital Dollar Project calls for a two-tiered distribution system in first white paper for US CBDC. So everything I've explained to you guys in terms of a hybrid intermediated model, Canada's following that model, US is following that model. So a lot of the fear of what I'm hearing, they're going to have the power to control us, they're going to have you on the credit score, they're going to have this and going to have that, is another way to, I want to say, FUD or scare people out of the market. Because you see someone like Ripple, you see someone like Stellar, you see someone like Casper, Algorand, they're all associated with the World Economic Forum. When I first got into crypto and I found that out, they were associated with these individuals, I had huge ethical issues with buying it. I had huge ethical issues with Ripple. I had huge ethical issues with XRP, same with Stellar and XLM and Algorand. But then I started digging deeper, and it began to make sense that the same thing they do with fear, they're doing with fear here, because they want you to believe that cryptocurrency is bad with these certain companies, and CBDCs are bad because cryptocurrencies are bad. So if you get into cryptocurrencies, you're going to end up with the CBDC, and that's terrible for you guys. That's terrible for me. That's terrible for all of us. But from what I read and their policies that state to do no harm, and transparency, and the two-tiered models, even more than two-tiered for all I know. But there's an intermediary like your regular bank who would do your KYC, know your customer, who then would have the potential to reverse a payment should you send one off through the XRPL or RippleNet. I know Scotiabank is working with Ripple. They're partnered with them, and Ripple does have the ability to reverse a transaction should it be needed to. So you call up the bank would then tap into RippleNet, and facilitate that reversal of payment at that point. Because if there was no intermediary for this and you sent that money out, you're not getting your money back. It's that simple. That's where the intermediaries come from. China's their own different model though. China's a completely different model. I'm not sure if they're going with the direct model. I do know that they were sampling with that direct model. Even Russia is doing a two-tiered model. I was looking at some PDFs today. They were in Russian, so I had those translated, and they're even suggesting a two-tiered model. I'm not sure if China's going to switch theirs up, but I do know they were playing around with that, and hopefully they change, because that's not good for anybody to have any of that kind of power. So, in conclusion, this is the BIS paper number 880. We're just going to scroll down, which is called Rise of the CBDC, Drivers, Approaches, and Technologies. I just want to go down to the conclusion of this paper here. Where is it? The conclusion, page 28. There we go. This paper has examined the rise of CBDC currencies, a new payment technology that may soon be available in a number of countries around the world. We have presented a novel CBDC project. We have shown that this index is higher in jurisdictions with higher mobile phone use and higher innovation capacity. Especially retail CBDCs are more likely where there's a larger informal economy, and wholesale CBDCs are more advanced in the economies that have higher financial development. So again, higher financial development would be something like Canada, would be US, would be China. You have that China was working on Project Intanon Rock at first. Intanon Rock, which was then renamed Enbridge, which is a BIS innovation hub project with the BIS HKMA and the BIS Switzerland along with Thailand, and then that was then rolled into the Enbridge. And Enbridge is facilitating the movement of WCBDCs or wholesale CBDCs within the central bank district or the back end of things, and then that gets sent up forward to the RCBDCs, which is what you and I touch at that point on our phones, and we are playing with the RCBDCs. Okay, we have also noted that CBDC projects differ starkly across countries, both in their motivations and their economic and technical design. Many central banks are pursuing models where CBDC is a direct claim on the central bank, but with private intermediaries, right? So that would be something like the DTCC. Then you have someone like, I'm not going to say Jack Henry, you know, like the CDS for Canada. To better understand these differences, we have zoomed in on 3 advanced cases, which we didn't read. I had taken you through Canada, I had taken you through US, and I showed you the direct model through China. Namely, those of the PBOC, Sweden, and the Bank of Canada. The only thing we did was substitute this Sweden bank for the US because it's fairly similar. Given the novelty of the CBDC and the scope for a clean slate, thinking on the nature and provision of money, it is natural that the approaches will differ across countries in line with economic circumstances and users' priorities. All right? Again, I'm not looking to persuade you anyway. I'm not looking to change your mind. I'm not looking to influence your mind. I'm just looking to maybe plant seeds into what is actually going on, and fear-mongering that could potentially exist. I'm not saying it does. I'm not saying it doesn't. I believe it does, but I'm not telling you it does. I'm just reading the documents that have been put out there by the individuals doing these projects, and then you have the media, which puts out nothing but news, and people take that and they begin to disseminate that to other people, and the whole broken telephone begins to happen. Anyways, pardon me. I hope you guys learned something from my show here. I hope you enjoyed my channel, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Making major moves. We going all in like we got nothing to lose. We making moves. We making major moves. We making moves.